Welcome to the Leadership to Wealth podcast. We are actually coming to you live from Ottawa, Canada, here, the capital of Canada. And we have a special guest with us today, streaming in from the US of A, and you'll see it. If you can't see it on his background, you will in a second. Or if you're hearing us, there's a beautiful picture of the American flag there on the wall. And our special guest today, Dana Cavalea.
All right, Neil, thanks for having me. Good to see you. My neighbors to the north.
Yes, that's right. The Great White North. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Nailed it. You nailed it.
Nice.
Because we prepared in advance. So
that's right. That's right. Absolutely. It's all about the preparation.
100%.
Speaking of which, and we're gonna get into this fast and furious. And one of the things that we do here is we are focused on shortening the learning curve to building wealth in your life, in someone's life, and especially in the areas that are important to them. Now, for you, you've done a number of things, so you could speak into a number of different areas, whether it be health, wealth, family. I'm sure you could speak into a number of areas, but here's my first question for you, if I can just get right into it.
Cool.
And that is, for leaders to build greatness, there is always some sort of problem or failure that usually precedes that rebirth, that that thing that instigates them into solving the problem, moving forward to growing and becoming who they are. And for you, as you've written a book and you're out there speaking, teaching, and which you've done for a long time, what would you say needed that for you?
Yeah, I was doing the coaching and speaking and writing thing before it was a thing and before it was cool. So for me, it's nice that now more people are in the game, but ultimately, I have found, from a lot of those that I work with that have generated generational wealth, a lot of them started with some level of pain, right? They either came from a situation that was pain oriented, or they experienced something in their life that was a catalyst for them to say, hey, I never want to experience that again. And, one of my clients, he flipped his business twice for a couple $100 million, sold it once for a few hundred. The company that bought it basically was tanking and crashing the business, and he bought it again for pennies on the dollar and flipped it again. Anyway, he's a gentleman from Brooklyn, New York. He grew up in what would be a tenement, and he said, to this day, I can still smell that lobby where we would walk in and still get the keys. And I told myself, I never, ever, ever want to go back to that situation. So that pushed him forward. I work with another gentleman. He's a multi-billionaire. And for him, his father passed away when he was in law school, and he decided to finish law school and take over his father's senior living business. And he expanded the footprint and saw it not just as a senior living business, but as a real estate play. And he went on to build tremendous wealth in the space of senior living, but really in the space of real estate. So those are just two examples of individuals who said, I never want to go back to this situation, or, I have to help my family. And as a result, I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to get that outcome and result.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask, you've written this book, Habits of a Champion. What was the problem or failure that you saw that really preceded you coming out and writing that book?
Well, when I first started writing it, I perceived myself as that failure, right? Because I had a career in professional sports, and my contract was up and it didn't get renewed. And I said, okay, who am I? What skills do I have? And I said, okay.
And this was the Yankees at the time, right?
Yeah, this is my career with the Yankees. So I was a coach, and I said, well, if I'm a coach, I need to find people to coach. So let me take my life, my experiences in working with the highest performing talent in the world, and put it into a functional, practical user's guide, known as this book, Habits of a Champion. And that's what I did. So I wrote a book that you could turn to any page, any chapter, and get value to help you optimize your performance and mental state from where you are now. And when you don't get your contract renewed and it's all
Yeah.
you start saying, okay, I got to improve my mental state, because it's very easy, if you lose a deal, if you lose a contract, if you lose some money, to get down in your mental state. So I wrote a book to help people optimize their mental state, but I did so through sharing my own personal story of all the way to the top at a very young age, and feeling all the way at the bottom also at was a young age in my early 30s. So it was up and down in my 20s, early 30s, and then back up. So
Yeah.
that's so many people's story, and that's why I
Yeah.
think a lot of people related to it really well.
Yeah. Can you say something about what that was like, in that, your contract's not being renewed, and, I'm sure the amount of uncertainty and thinking about everything that's going on, and just how that you were able to transfer that, transmute that, transform that from that piece of feeling like a failure to, all right, this is what I need to do. And what was able, that little thing that was able to help you with that shift?
Yeah, so in my office, and it's still there today in Yankee Stadium, there's a sign that goes across the border of the weight room, and it says, "Get comfortable with the uncomfortable." And in that
Yeah.
moment, I said, "Well, I'm very uncomfortable." Right? I had the emotion of fear. I had failure. I had, well, what's next? What am I going to do? Right? I had all these emotions that were there. But for me, it's always about, okay, get lean, get simple, and get linear. What is it that I want to do, and where do I want to go? What is it that I want to do, and where is it that I want to go? Now, I had these training facilities in New York where I started them, and I started this brand that I was looking to grow and expand while I was still with the Yankees. So I said, okay, this is the one thing that I have right now. Let me try to expand it. Now, here's the thing. I expanded it, and then that started to fail. So it's like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, holy cow, that's that feeling again of like, I had such great success early, and now here I am in another situation where this facility is bleeding money, and this one's bleeding money, and finally
Yeah.
I went to one of my clients, one of these very successful gentlemen, and I said, okay, here's what I got going on. And he said, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to close these places one at a time. One at a time, you're going to shut them down. And I said, well, I don't obviously know what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to take your advice. And I shut one down, and I shut another one down, and another one down. And I sold one of my facilities for $30,000. Okay. And that $30,000 was amazing, because it gave me just a little bit of time to get my shit together. And number two, it gave me just a little bit of money to where I can self-publish my first book.
Wow.
And I took that book, I took that money, I put it into the book, and I said, I'm just going to market and share this story that is in this book to as many people as I can. And then I'll never forget, I got invited to speak for HubSpot in Boston, Massachusetts. They invited me to talk about the habits of a champion. I talk about the habits of a champion. I don't hear anything for like 2 or 3 weeks after the event. Finally, I have this woman call me. She's an event planner. And she's like, Dana, I'd love you to come and speak for Johnson and Johnson. We'd love to pay you $15,000, for this one event to come speak. And I said, boom, that's it. So I got that one job, and that gave me another 15 grand. Just again, it was a cash burn, right? I got the gig, burn the cash, get the next gig, burn the cash, until finally it all started to catch. And then I built out, an executive coaching company to where now I work with companies all over the world, CEOs and executives all over the world. And it started from a point of failure, a point of not knowing what was next, a point of, am I going to make it? And there was also the coach in me that said, listen, get your shit together, stop being a crybaby, and go figure out what you're going to do. And I coached myself very, very hard, and it worked. So thank God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that really resonates with me. And I got to remember, being in real estate and being in investments. And there was one point where I was about 2 weeks away from, every bill was going belly up. Nothing was happening, and no deals were coming in, no money coming in. And I remember thinking, something's wrong here. And then we got down to a week. The next week, everything's going belly up. And I was like, all right, God, I'm gonna have to do something. I'm here. I've done what I can do. And I'm like, you're gonna have to do something. And then I went, okay, I've done everything, because you always come through. And even if you don't, I get it. All right, fine, let's go. And I was like, all I'm gonna focus on for these next 5 days is going out, seeing if I can find another deal. As it turned out, you know how that happens. A deal came through. It closed up the next week, paid up everything, and just kept on moving. And that it's hard to pass on what that feels like to someone if they've never been at that bottom where you think you're, not only do you think you're a failure, you think you're fake.
Yeah.
Like, I clearly can't be that good because look at where I am, right? And
then there's that feeling of survival. And for those that haven't experienced it, it's like you're in the street and a bus is coming at you, and you finally and you see it in the last minute, you get out of the way and you go, that was close. Wow.
Yeah. And your heart is like beating out your chest, and something feels like it's gonna rip out the muscles in your back feel like they're gonna rip out.
But here, there's also this sick part. I'm sure a lot of people have this.
Come on.
But in a sick way, I'm like, I actually like that feeling of like the plane's going like this, and all of a sudden I got to pull it up at the last minute, and it's like this rush that forces you to be your best. And to tell you the truth, my wife laughs because like I'll look at some of my accounts, like the ones that I see on a day-to-day basis. And I, as soon as they get to a certain number, I move the money out into more of an investment account. And I do so because I don't want to see much in there, because it keeps me very, very hungry. And it's a sick thing. But I've learned that brings out, it almost keeps me slightly nervous and slightly paranoid to the point where it makes me perform.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree with you completely. When money starts to get into that account, I'm like, that is not the best use of it. I don't want it there. Let's move it out. Let's do something else with it. And as long as there's obviously a certain amount, you got to be responsible, take care of your bills, all that kind of stuff. And but by and large, there is something about that, especially when you know that you're still building, you're still growing. You almost want to be in that phase where don't like Rocky, go back to the old gym, go back to the concrete walls, and let's keep moving.
Well, there's also something about the underdog mentality, and that I call it the junkyard dog mentality that I think is really important to have. My parents were both teachers. I didn't grow up with wealth or anything like that. So I did grow up knowing that you have to work for a dollar, you have to work really hard for whatever you have. And that if you are willing to do that, you'll have a great chance of things working out for you. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard, but things will work out if you're willing to put the work in and you're able to limit your distractions, right? And stay very focused on what it is, that you do. I know, not to get running here, but, so many times, we can see what other people are doing out there, and we start to even slightly model what they're doing. And it may take us off course, even slightly. And over time, it becomes very much off course. And what I learned in my journey is that the more I look at other people and what they're doing, the worse I get. So it's really important. And that goes for even people who are having great success. It's important to know what it is, how you operate, how you function, what your debt tolerance is, and all of those things. And when you understand that for yourself, then you could build the right strategic plan. For me, like personally, coaching is my engine, and then I take all that and I invest it in real estate, right? So it's
Yeah.
coaching, real estate, coaching, real estate, coaching, real estate, over and over and over and over again. And I don't buy sexy stuff. I buy high return stuff over and over and over and over and over again. And that's the game.
Love it. Well, you're speaking sexy to me right now. Just keep saying it. Real estate. Love it. Love
Yeah.
it. Let me ask this. So, first of all, actually, I want to just ask, where did you grow up? Where you shared a little bit there.
Yeah, I grew up in New York. So I grew up on Long Island. There's you're born to hustle. You got to fight for survival because it's expensive. And I also grew up with the messaging from my parents about how expensive everything is, and how we would go to the cheapest hotel, and here I am too with the Yankees staying at the nicest hotel. So I'd go to a place with my parents, and they're like, hey, as a kid, you can't order that on the menu because we can't afford that. So you end up in your mind always looking at the right hand side of the menu before you start looking at the left hand side, right? You're riding the prices before you're looking at the contents. And that's just how I grew up. And I remember, I grew up like 40 minutes from the Hamptons, right? A very well-known elite place to be in summer. And I remember my parents would take us out there literally like once every 2 weeks in the summer. And we'd go see all these big, beautiful houses. And the one message that I would always get is like from them is, hey, if you're willing to work, you can have that. If you're willing to work, you can have that. The sad part is they wrote themselves off as they can't have that. But to me and my brother, we could, if we were willing to do what it took. So it was powerful lessons, but it's also sad to see that they cut themselves short.
Yeah. But having said that, they imbued that into you, and you're able to take that into your life, which every parent is trying to do that. So if the problem is that oftentimes people get distracted, even if it seems like a minute amount, what's the solution to that, to not getting distracted? I mean, you've had to deal with that throughout your career. You've got Major League Baseball athletes, and I'm sure you're trying to keep them. What's that secret to that problem of getting distracted?
For me, I always draw. I draw 2 boxes all the time. I call it A box, B box.
Yeah.
The B box,
and I'm guessing this is in the book.
This one is actually not in the book, but
oh my goodness. Okay, we're getting
this
off
may
the
be
record.
in the next book, but
okay.
A box, B box. B box is what do I want to do? A box is where am I now? And then there's an arrow between the 2 boxes. And the arrow is symbolic of what is my next most simple action that I need to take in order to get closer to B. And you could just keep drawing it over and over and over. So it's A box, here's where I am. B box, here's what I'm looking to achieve. Arrow in between is the most simple action I can take right now to get me closer. And then I draw it again. So I accomplished the action on that arrow. Now I got A box, B box, arrow. What's the next most simple action? And when you execute on enough of those arrows, and I'm not talking about the complicated stuff. Everybody wants to get too big. They want to expand so much in their thoughts, and they get so philosophical and theoretical that, if you over strategize, you're going to get killed. You have to take an action. So I always say, what's your next most simple action? I'm always cueing myself to take an action. What's the most simple action here? Because it's easy to overthink. And sometimes when we don't have what we want right now, we start looking to other people who have what it is that we want right now, and it diverts our path. So I'm just really big on, hey, stay within yourself. It's the same as if we're coaching a hitter. You got to know the type of hitter you are. Like for me, I'm not a huge debt guy. I'm not a huge leverage guy. I don't like that feeling. I shared with you probably some of the reasons why. So I like to stay right here, and I like to generate a lot of my own cash and invest my own cash to high return stuff, take the returns and apply it with some of my own cash into the next deal and keep rolling and rolling and rolling. But I can't look to somebody that's a high debt guy. It would be a completely poor strategy for somebody like me. Now, there's other guys I know that do great with it. So you got to know who you are. But that A box, B box, line with a simple action, A box, B box, and you just keep doing it over and over and over again, and your outcomes will start to show themselves. Alongside that, you got to trust your gut. You got to trust your instincts. And sometimes people are so locked up on these phones and everything, they don't even know who they are anymore. They don't have that feel, that intuition, that instinct. Got to have it.
Okay, so you were just talking about social media there, and one of the things that I've seen, and I'm actually concerned about for people in this area, this problem of getting distracted. You can get onto social media and you're bombarded with all the things that you have to do next. Oh, you do this, do that, and all of a sudden, your mind is thinking, okay, what about this? I need to do that, or I could do this, or I could do that. And so, talking about distractions, absolutely, they're continually there. And so this idea of put it down, A box, B box, and draw an arrow. What about the person that says, but I have all these other things to do, I don't want to forget them?
Well, you gotta ask yourself, hey, what's my most high yield activity out of all these things? What's my highest?
So literally, you can write all that stuff down onto another piece of paper or something.
Yeah,
and figure out.
Most of the stuff that we think we have to do doesn't have any weight, right? It doesn't move the needle, right? It's like, do you want to poke somebody or do you want to punch somebody, right? I'd want to punch them more than poke them, and you have to have these mini knockouts every day, and it's only going to happen if you start doing the right stuff. It's like, I see people, again, I talk about strategizing. They just over strategize. They got charts, they have ideas, they have notebooks, they have journals filled with ideas, and they don't do anything. So this is why you could have somebody that goes to Harvard, and you could have somebody that goes barely passes high school, and the guy that barely passes high school kicks the butt of the guy that went to Harvard, because one can be very cerebral and can overthink to the point where they become locked up. The other one is too stupid to know the difference. So he's just taking, or she's just taking action, and getting results. So you have to really know, the importance of prioritized action and what on that list actually moves the needle, and what is just easy for you to do, so you keep doing it. Like, most people love low leverage activities. Check the email, scrolling. The biggest issue I found with social media is actually not even looking at other people, but sometimes it's over trusting these marketed authorities. And people put so much trust in these folks, but they don't put enough trust in themselves. So that for me is actually one of the bigger issues that I see when it relates to social media. Like, we're trusting all of these other people, but my question is, do you trust yourself?
Right. Well, I can say that whenever I see someone with one of those journals, one of those like perfectly organized sort of things, you can buy it here and it looks this way and all that kind. I usually, quite honestly, I get concerned, because I'm thinking,
here's
if you put that much effort into that journal, that's right.
That's right. People that spend 5 hours a day on a morning routine. It's like, wait, when do you work? You're up at 4 and you're still doing your morning routine at 9. Like, go hit it.
Okay, so we got to let you go in 1 minute. What is next for Dana Cavalea?
Well, man. Well, I love the corporate coaching and all that. I do a ton of. I still work with athletes, but I actually have a farm in addition to all that. So we raise a lot of beef cattle, pork, and pigs.
In the middle of a food shortage, good stuff. That's amazing to hear.
Sometimes the brain just says, follow the instincts and go do this. But ultimately, it's another engine. It's a direct to consumer business, and maybe it'll be a franchise, maybe it'll be a licensed model where we become a meat wholesaler and we have all these people distributing our product. But I just love creation. I love business building. I love ideas. But I'm not the person that just has ideas and then sits on them. I take action on them. And if I'm not willing to take an action, I dismiss the idea for another time. So idea, action, go. Boom.
So speaking of that, where can people get more of you, Dana?
Yeah, DanaCavalea.com is my website. The book Habits of a Champion is on Amazon, and I'm on LinkedIn. Reach out, say hello. Don't be a stranger, and don't forget to take action. It's the only thing that moves the needle.
Love it. Well, Leadership to Wealth Nation, thank you guys so much. We got to let go of the man, the myth, the legend, Dana Cavalea. Go check out his book, and they can get, where can they find the book?
Amazon.
Amazon. Go check it out on Amazon. Dana, thank you so much for coming on today, and I look forward to hearing more about the cows and and the journey ahead.
Cool. Thanks, Neil. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Take